Good morning. So I am currently fasting. I'm trying to get back into intermittent fasting. I got off of it for a little bit and then I realized that I was seeing better progress as far as weight loss for myself personally with intermittent fasting. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Right now I'm doing a black coffee and I'm a little bit weird. As you saw, I put some creatine in it. That's because I'm actually about to go to the gym and I want to have a little bit of extra pump, but I'm taking a break from pre-workouts right now, so black coffee is my pre-workout. I'm also a little weird where I don't like hot black coffee, but I do like cold black coffee. So I didn't have any access to any cold brews, so I just made a regular thing of coffee in my Keurig and put that in the fridge for a little bit till it cooled down, add the creatine, and it's delicious. What's going on, y'all? Thanks so much for everyone who participated in asking questions either on Facebook or Instagram, here on YouTube. I had a good bit of response and I want to get to as many people's questions as possible, so I'm putting together some Q&A videos. And I'm going to do this on a more regular basis so we can try to get some of your questions answered. Of course, I'll leave some descriptions in the link. Me and a few others do run some keto groups, so you could always join those groups and get some immediate answers as well. But I like being able to involve some people here. I've blacked out the names only because I realized I didn't get permission from anybody to actually display their name, so I'll make sure I do that next time. So I'm going to answer some very specific questions from specific people, but then I also do get a lot of kind of repeat questions, so I'll answer those for you here. So let's go ahead and get into this. First question, do you count the calories and fat in MCT oil? Absolutely. Anything that you're eating or drinking that has calories and macronutrients, you should absolutely be counting that. Especially if you're doing it for weight loss, for example, you want to make sure that you're usually within a caloric deficit. It's a very, very, very rare situation that you're not going to be in a caloric deficit in order to see weight loss. So you want to make sure that you know where you're at and where you're at per day. So yeah, absolutely, especially because MCT oil, that's the medium chain triglycerides for those who may not already know. But that does have pretty, I think it's like 100 calories usually for a tablespoon, so it's pretty up there in calories if you're having a few tablespoons a day. There's some people that have 3 keto coffees a day. I may not suggest that, but yeah, absolutely. Count your calories, count your macros, everything you eat or drink. How often should I be recalculating my macros? I read so many conflicting reports on what they should be, and they're all different depending on who is saying it. Ain't that the truth? All I know is that I'm down 92 pounds in 10 months. Congratulations. And I still have another 80-ish pounds to go. I've been gaining and losing 10 to 15 pounds in the past 2 months, so I'm thinking 20 grams net carbs, 75 grams protein, and 150 grams fat isn't working as well anymore, even with intermittent fasting and some EF added in. Okay, so that was a pretty long one, so I'm going to try to address this as much as I can. When it comes to you specifically like that, there definitely are a lot of variables, because that's the thing I've always tried teaching people is that I hate cookie cutter diets that say this is the way you do this diet and this will work for everybody, because we as humans are so different. There's so many variables that change. I can relate with you where I lost a good bit of weight even before I found keto, and that was kind of my main goal, was to lose fat and build muscle. And lost a good bit of weight, went through a few life tragedies, gained weight again, and then I went back to what I was doing and it just wasn't working anymore. That's because now my body's adjusted and it needs something new and challenging. It could be very similar for you. For example, in your situation, you lost a good bit of weight. Now you're kind of gaining and losing weight along the way with the same thing. So now we need to challenge something. So, I mean, really, you could message me and we can work on this kind of one-to-one. I do online coaching, and it might be something that you need that's a little bit more specific than just a quick video discussion, but it could be something as changing up your exercise. Are you doing exercise? What kind of exercises? It could be something like changing your macronutrients around a little bit. I would say where you're at right now, 20 grams net carbs. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't want to futz with that too much. 75 grams protein and 150 grams fat. I know this is people who don't quite understand gluconeogenesis will usually yell at me when I tell them to try increasing their protein. But it could be something as simple as, if you are exercising, to maybe increase your protein a little bit, drop the fat just a little bit. So maybe more like at 90 grams of protein, 140 grams fat. Again, I'd have to get a little bit more specifics about you personally to be able to answer that fully. Stop. The next question is about the same thing. I must be doing something wrong. I can't lose more than 10 pounds. Anyone who would like to mentor me, I would kindly appreciate it. I actually already sent you a message, so check your inbox. I have stalled and would like to know how to restart losing. What should I eat? Recipe for a week. Okay. So this is kind of getting along the same lines here. It seems to be a common question where people are asking, hey, I'm stalling, I'm plateauing, what do I need to do? So I kind of explained it earlier in one of the answers. I'm going to see if I can kind of explain it again here. I would suggest, if you're having a stall, when I say a stall, I mean you're talking about like it's been a few months and you're not seeing the scale move, or it keeps yo-yoing. That's when we need to change something. So I would have to get some more specifics about what are you doing now and how can we adjust it and how can we monitor it so that we can actually tell you to lose weight. Again, just telling somebody, oh, okay, increase this, decrease that, add that, without knowing anything about that person specifically, that's BS, and that's not truly going to help. That's more, where you throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. That's what a lot of online coaches do. That's where myself and Carrie, we like to kind of brag that we're a little bit more customized than that. So I will shoot you a message as well, and we can see what we need to do. So anybody, if you're having a stall, I would say message me directly, join our Facebook group if you're already on our Facebook group, message me on YouTube. I'll put my email address down below, but we can do some actual coaching if you're at a stall, so we can see what we need to change. If we want to use the carbs we just ate for exercise, how long should we wait after eating them to exercise so we make sure we burn off those carbs we just ate? Also, what is the easiest way to be sure we've burnt off those carbs? Like, is there a formula? Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like what you're talking about here is cyclic keto. And cyclic keto is where people will usually eat carbohydrates like right before a workout. Some people choose to do this, especially in like a weightlifting community, because they're used to having the fuel source be that quick insulin burst. There's a lot of people that's just what they have always done and what they're used to, which is why they usually choose that. Myself, I don't do that, only because I've found now that I have more energy and actually more strength and more power just through ketones, because the brain is a very powerful thing, and when we're running off of ketones, we actually kind of change our brain cognition, and that makes a huge difference. So I'm still going to try to answer you, because I don't want to answer you based off of just what I do. Depending on what type of carbohydrates you're eating, I'm hoping you're not doing the standard bodybuilder thing where they like chow down on like gummy worms or Sour Patch Kids right before a workout, because that's just straight sugar, and that I would really suggest that, just because I feel like that's probably going to counter what you're trying to do here with keto. But I would have to know a little bit more about you personally to know exactly what you're wanting to do with keto. As far as how long you should wait after eating them to exercise, you kind of want to do it immediately. If the whole goal is to use that insulin spike and the carbohydrates to give you energy for your workout, you want to be, if you're eating some kind of carbs, you want to be working out like within the next 20 minutes, half hour, because it's such a quick response. Digestion and how macronutrients actually fuel for our body, depending on what you're using, it can take a little bit of time. But especially if you're already doing keto and your body is already becoming fat adapted, and then you throw in the carbohydrates, it's going to attack those carbohydrates and want to use those as fuel almost immediately, just because carbohydrates are a quick, easy, cheap fuel source and a temporary fuel source for our body. So if you wanted to use that before your workout, again, I would say probably no longer than half an hour wait in between. As far as the last part, what's the easiest way to be sure that you've burnt off the carbs? I'm sorry, that's where you're more talking about the formula. Really, the only thing I could tell you is, go hard. And I know that sounds silly, but it's true. If you are if you're doing the cyclic keto and you want to eat carbohydrates for your workout so you have that energy, but you also want to make sure that you burn off all the carbohydrates, I would say don't eat a lot of carbohydrates. You probably, if you're trying to do it just as a fuel source, I would say eat less than 20 grams of carbohydrates for that one meal. And maybe don't eat carbs for the rest of the day. That way you still have your 20 in. Keep in mind carb sources matter, so it depends on where you're getting your carb sources from. If you're telling me that you're going to eat 20 grams of carbs from an avocado, I'd say have at it. If you're telling me that you're going to eat 20 grams of carbs from like a power bar or granola or something, all I can tell you is go hard at the gym. Go hard for your workout. You're probably going to need to work out for about an hour. Luckily, the body does continue to burn calories and burn macronutrients when we're doing resistance training, so even after the workout. So I would say if you're going to be doing cyclic keto, make sure that you're also doing resistance training. Do it with a moderately heavy weight, something that's at least challenging. You don't have to be a power lifter, but you want to make sure that you are probably going to be working out for about an hour. Oh, this is actually a nice segue into the next question here. I would like to start working out / weight training. Where should I start? I'm 30 pounds from my goal. Current weight 185, needs to be something I can do at home and with a bad shoulder and knee. So thank you so much. I'm very actually happy that more people are getting into resistance training. I get so many people, especially women, who tell me that they don't want to do any weight training because they don't want to bulk up and they don't want to, start looking all muscular. And that's one thing that women have to understand, is that testosterone plays a huge role in the development of muscles, as you see on men. Testosterone still helps with the development of muscles in women, but since women naturally have such a low amount of testosterone as compared to men, it's actually very difficult for women to get, big bulging muscles. Women who you usually see as far as like pro bodybuilders, they're eating a very specific diet, doing a very specific regimen as far as workout. They're usually taking either some kind of hormone replacement or balancing, whether natural or not natural. Some of them are taking steroids. It's a very difficult process for women to actually get big and bulky per se with weight training. So as far as like how to start, and also take into consideration your injuries, I do create exercise plans, and again, I customize them because the same thing. I've had people say, well, I can't do, squats because of my knees, or I would like to know how to do squats taking into consideration a bad knee. So you and I can work together to make a specific meal plan if that's what you would like. I would suggest that. But as far as like how to start, you can do something as simple as getting on the YouTubes and searching at-home weight training or at-home exercise, and find ones that incorporate dumbbells, kettlebells, resistance bands, whatever you have. The best way to start is just to start. Remember in my initiate, dedicate, decimate, the initiate process, that's your first step. So I don't know what you have at home, but if you have even just a light pair of dumbbells, grab those dumbbells and get on the YouTubes and look up an at-home workout, at-home dumbbell workout. If you have resistance band, look up at-home resistance band workout. I am going to start doing more exercise videos. I kind of stopped doing that for a little bit because I had people telling me that they're more interested in the science and the nutrition and the macronutrients and all that. But I still am a strong advocate of exercise because we have to have both parts. Although diet is our main concern when it comes to health, as far as like weight loss and overall health, exercise is still a very important part of that. We should have both at the same time. Does lazy keto and strict keto make that big of a difference? So if you're not familiar, lazy keto usually means people are eating kind of with their eyes, is what I like to say, meaning that you are not tracking your calories, you're not tracking your macronutrients. Some people do lazy keto where they only track the carbs, but then they don't worry about the rest. So again, I know this has been kind of a repeat thing, but it will vary per person, and this is what I mean by that. If you are first starting out keto, you've never done keto before, you've never really done much of any kind of a diet before, I would suggest track the crap out of your macros. The reason being is because a lot of times we either overestimate or underestimate, and either one of those is going to be bad. To give you a personal story, when I was in high school, when I first tried to lose weight, I had heard something about the 900 diet, where it was something where people were only eating 900 calories a day, and I didn't even bother looking into it. I just told myself, okay, if people are eating 900 calories a day and losing weight, I'm going to lose even more. I'm only going to eat 600 calories a day. Well, sure enough, after about 3 weeks of that, I got admitted to the hospital for malnourishment. If you are not tracking your calories and your macros and you're first starting out, you may end up being either in that spectrum where you're malnourished because you think I can't eat a whole lot of food and all I need to really worry about is eating fat. You become malnourished because you're not eating the proper amounts of food, you're not getting all of your electrolytes. It's a very bad thing. On the opposite spectrum of that, I have some people who say, well, I'm going to do keto, which means I can just eat, a pound of bacon a day and I can eat all the fat I want and calories don't matter. But it still does. If the goal is weight loss, or even if the goal is maintaining, then absolutely calories still matter. You might be able to, depending on what physical exercise you're doing, you might be able to have higher calories than other people. But if you're eating, 3,000-4,000 calories a day, and you usually were eating less than that, and your goal is weight loss, it probably isn't going to end very well. So to kind of summarize that, as far as the difference between lazy and strict, I do kind of a mixture. I don't know if what would be in between lazy and strict. I'm gonna call it casual keto. No, because that doesn't sound good. I'll come up with a name for it. But what I mean by that is I've tracked for so long that I know I can eyeball essentially the ingredients. I know how much is a tablespoon. I know how many calories are in an egg. I know how many grams of fat are in the sausage that I eat, because you become creatures of habit. So I would say to start off with, do strict keto until you get kind of in that comfortable phase where, okay, I can kind of eyeball that. I don't need to put everything on a scale. I don't need to put everything in MyFitnessPal. But that takes a lot of discipline and it takes time. So does it matter? Does it make a difference? That really depends on you as the individual. So I'm going to answer some other questions that were not specifically on social media, but I still get on a regular basis. And sorry, I'm trying not to make the video too terribly long, so I'll try to finish this up fairly quickly for you. One of the questions I get often is, should I incorporate fasting or intermittent fasting in keto? So I'm going to make an actual whole video on this because it's a lot of information and I want people to understand the differences, because even myself and one of the admins that run the group with and one of my good friends, we kind of argue a little bit back and forth about this, only because I'm very much of the science-based person. Not that she isn't, but sometimes my nerdism kind of outweighs some stuff that people have put out there on the interwebs. So with fasting, with intermittent fasting or doing a full day of fasting, again, kind of depends on your goal. There are some people who want to do a fast because they want to clear out the toxins of their body, which is the most natural way to rid the toxins of our bodies. Please stop with all the detox teas and all this crap. There's really not anything that we can put into our body that gets stuff out. In that particular sense, fasting would be one of the best ways to do that because it helps clear out damaged proteins and cells and helps regenerating new cells. Again, I'm not going to go into whole long depth on this because I'd rather make a separate video, because otherwise this one will be way too long. What I would say is that, again, if you are brand new to keto, I would say not to fast. And the only reason I would say that is because you're already having to change. You're making a metabolic change. You're already taking, okay, I've been eating, pancakes for breakfast, and now I have to have, none of that. I've been eating cereal, I have to have none of that. I've been eating burgers with buns, I can't have that, or the fries. So you're already making such a huge change. And one of the number one reasons that any kind of a diet fails is that people feel too strict. They feel limited. So if you're already restricting, how you're eating, if I don't think of it as restricting, but if it's restricting to you because that's what you're used to, and then you're also adding fasting on top of it, where you're like, oh my god, now I have to wake up and I can't eat for X amount of hours, and then when I eat I can only have these kind of foods. A lot of people will get discouraged when they're trying to take on too much at once. I don't really feel like if you have the discipline for it, I don't really see that there would be any kind of a bad thing with that. There was one of these YouTubers who was trying to say that if you start out with fasting, that your body won't learn how to use the fats to turn into ketones, which doesn't make any sense scientifically to me. I'll talk about that in the other video. But as far as intermittent fasting, I would say wait until you're fat adapted, wait until you're used to keto if you want to try that, or use it as a way to try to get out of a plateau. That's actually how I discovered intermittent fasting, and why I tested it out is because I started doing keto, and when I very first started doing keto, I was feeling a little bit healthier, but I wasn't seeing numbers changing on the scale. I didn't feel any increased strength. I didn't have the sleep benefits. There was a lot of these things that, several months into keto, I was just like, man, maybe I should stop this. Maybe it's not working for me. And it wasn't until I added the intermittent fasting that I started seeing the results. That's, again, not going to be the same for everybody. Another question I get a lot is about like specialty ketos, and I call them specialty ketos because you've got paleo keto, you've got the cyclic keto like we've talked about before, you've got vegan keto. Any of those can work. It really, again, it kind of depends on what you want to do. If you're a vegan for your beliefs, then I would say, be vegan. If you want to do vegan keto, you can absolutely do that. Just remind yourself that you're going to have a lot more restriction because you're taking out all of the vegetables a normal vegan would eat to get their necessary fibers and to get a little bit more nutrients. And then you're also not adding the protein, and then a lot of vegans get a lot of their proteins from certain nut sources, which you can't have on keto if you're trying to stay in ketosis, so you're a little bit more limited. As far as the cyclic keto, like we talked about before, the only problem with that is that you're guaranteed kicking yourself out of ketosis every single day, which I can't guarantee will have a negative or positive side effect. It really depends on how your body utilizes it, and if that's something that you want to try, you can try it for a little bit. If you're not seeing the results that you want, it might not be for you. Paleo keto, I have to look into that a little bit more because I only know a little bit about it, but I think it's where you're essentially just having keto without without the cheese and a lot of the dairy. There's a lot of people that do non-dairy keto, and again, that's a personal preference. I love cheese. Blame it on my German heritage, but I love cheese. Personally, I've never had an issue with cheese knocking me out of ketosis. You also still have to just be smart about it. Don't have a whole pound of cheese. Don't have cheese with every single meal. So it's just kind of being smart about it. So if you still have questions, put them in the comments below. Put them on Facebook, put them on Instagram, email me directly. I want to start kind of doing a regular thing that I can hopefully answer some questions, and I hope that I answered your questions. Also, y'all, as you can probably see behind me, I'm going to put some images up here as well. I still have some shirts that I am making. I'm making them just because right now I do not have a full-time job, and I like being creative, and I want to be able to give back to my keto fam. I also have some non-keto shirts for the people who don't want to go and advertise keto everywhere. But check it out. I'll leave a link here. I'll leave a link in the description. I have a Patreon account if any of y'all just want to donate and don't want a shirt. It's completely up to you. I appreciate everybody who has subscribed. I appreciate everybody who's just watched the video, and I hope you subscribe.